Okay, John
Good.
said he's coming in with the papers, and
Great. We're live. We're live.
can you? Hello, everyone.
They're behind the scenes. It's Friday. No, it's not Friday. It's Thursday, the 23rd of July. It's about 20 to 10, thereabouts. We're late tonight. The internet was down in my
In
area,
Spain, not here.
in not in all of Spain, but in this area. But it's back now. So we're sorry for the late start. So you're all very welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly on this glorious night in the middle of the Irish summer, or the end. When does summer officially end? Is it July, August?
I think when the clocks, when it like obviously it starts to get dark now earlier, but we don't notice it. I always think when you start to notice it, that's when the summer's over.
Well, officially, summer is May, June, and July, right? That's what you learned when you were in school, right? But
Yeah.
August was always one of the best months. So I don't know.
It's hard times. Hard times. How's joining me on the panel as always tonight? Is the Queen of Crumlin, currently the babe of British Bay. Are you still in British Bay?
Oh my goodness, I am still here. Can you hear the tide is pulling in? Can you hear it?
The tide is pulling in. Is that a euphemism for the week we've just had?
No, it comes in and out twice a day.
And
joining us, the Cowboy of California, or the Duke of...
That's better. I can handle Cowboy, yeah.
The Lord of Los Gatos, Derek O'Donoghue. Hi, Derek.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Derek. How are things there?
Good. Yeah, I can't believe it's a week since we had this conversation. It's been one hell of a quick week.
Would you wish it was longer?
So much has happened.
What are you trying to say, Derek? You wish it was longer?
No, I look forward to hearing your dulcet tones every week, Neil.
Oh, what would I do without you? What would I do without you? Of course, it has been a busy week. Vanessa is right. A lot has been happening over the past week. I mean, where do we begin? Well, where do we begin? I mean, look at the coalition of the unwilling. Where is our government going?
When you say go on, Derek.
Can I just say, just to begin, I want to say person, woman, man, camera, TV. Can you repeat that? What I just said?
Person, man, woman, camera, TV.
Well done. Okay. Neil, can you do it?
No, I didn't know I'd have to. Person, woman, camera, man, TV.
Okay. You're in trouble.
Is this a leaving cert? Leaving cert.
This is a new leaving cert.
In about 15 minutes, I'm going to ask you to do the same again, right? But Neil, you're already in trouble.
I'm screwed.
The President of the United States has been bragging about how he aced a cognitive ability test, and so you might saw some of the questions on the papers were like it was like a camel, and you had to identify that it was a camel, and it was an elephant, and you had to identify it was an elephant. But he was on Fox News the other day, and he was saying to the presenter, the interviewer, that the questions at the end got really, really difficult, and the doctors were amazed at his ability at answering these questions. And one of the questions was to repeat 5 words. So he was given 5 words and asked to repeat them. So the words were person, man, woman,
camera, TV.
Camera and TV, yeah. And he was able to repeat it. And because he got them all in order, he got bonus points. And the doctors were amazed. And then 15 minutes later, he was asked, do you remember that list that we talked about a few minutes ago? Can you tell me the list? And he got it right again. Now, he's on national TV, right, boasting about this, about how he got this question correct, and as demonstrating what an intellect he has. It's like the man is not all there.
Well, to be fair now, Derek, he's doing better than me, and I'm not the president of any country.
He's doing a lot better than I am.
Rub it in there, Derek. Rub it in.
And like I think he needs to lay off Trump. I know he's a cabbage, and I like this thing now that you're mocking him about the person, man, woman, camera, TV.
Well done.
You know, like there's a reason he got elected. It's because of this elitism that Hillary, portrayed. He was speaking to the working class people that feel neglected or outside the sort of the Washington DC, New York scene. And Bernie Sanders did the same thing. And I think people need to just lay off and let his actions make the bigger tit of him instead of mocking him.
Well, the problem though. Sorry, Derek.
He's like the drunk in the bar who tells it like it is, and people applaud him for telling it like it is. But the problem with him is, I said this before, he says 10 different things and contradicts himself 8 times in the 10 things he says. So he always has somebody that's pleased with what he says, But the guy is a chimp. He's an absolute imbecile.
But ultimately, though, he's throwing shit at a wall and some of it's going to stick. If you say 10 contradictory things, when one of them turns out to be true, then he says, didn't I say that? But also...
Exactly.
He's reaching expectations, you see. And whereas if you're expecting much more and you don't meet those, then he's seen as a fail. But he's reaching expectations. And I think the more people are mocking him, I think it's going to be easier for him to win in 2020.
Well, I think as a Trump sympathizer, Vanessa, after all,
I'm not a Trump sympathizer, but I just think that he got elected. Now, I personally don't think he thought he was going to win. I think the win for him was to be on the ballot, the Republican ballot. That was his win in his own head. And then he kind of got caught rotten when he did win. But like he doesn't talk down to the majority of the voters. I personally don't think he gives a shit about racism, homophobia, the right to choose. I think it's just about him. He doesn't give a shite. Maybe he is all these things, homophobic, racist and stupid and everything. But so are loads of other people. He just doesn't make a big deal about it. He leaves the behavior, racist and homophobic behavior and all this, he leaves that to other people.
Yeah.
I think people need to stop mocking. This is who he elected. It's like, if I see Micheál Martin, I will give him the professional courtesy his title deserves. I don't like the man. I think, I would put him there with Trump in terms of ability.
Well,
no, I don't think. Sorry, Neil. What?
Sorry, no, I was going to say, I think we're debating something that's probably 3 years old at this point, and Vanessa's in a corner that she's not going to be able to get out of. I think what's more interesting, though, is getting back to... Come on now, come on. I mean, we sympathize.
I don't think he's a worse bet than Biden.
Maybe
I think the big disgraces. I'm not sure. I have to be convinced because, if Biden is the answer, and if this is all America has come up with, well, Trump is the least of your problems.
Well, do you know what? You're getting a bit of sympathy from the chat pit because the all-reliable JDF Reality has said, in fairness to Trump, under his administration, America has and been, I presume means hasn't been involved in any major wars. We could...
The virus.
That is true, but but at the same time, would there be more death, more blood on Trump's hands as president, given the amount of lives lost to coronavirus? We know there's more lives lost to coronavirus than was lost in the Vietnam War. Where are we getting with Derek? You probably know better than me. You're a history teacher here, but where are we numbers wise there?
It's at the moment 142,000 plus have died in the United States. 142 plus thousand.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, there's two things in that. One is it because Trump didn't lock down or he didn't take it seriously enough in the early days, or is it like the massive gap in access to healthcare?
Well, I think he hasn't taken it serious at any point.
Well, whether he did or didn't, we don't know what the number would have been if he had locked down last January for early February. I mean, that's when it would have made sense. It definitely would have made sense in Ireland to have locked down by the 3rd week of February here, once that first case made themselves known. Like, as an island, we should have been laughing. But is it because he didn't lock down, or is it because you have this huge gap in access to healthcare in America, and people are ingrained that don't have insurance to kind of figure it out themselves, and there was delays. And then there's the other thing. Would you have been able to shut down America, all 52 states and the biggest cities in the world and the biggest markets in the world, as easy as you could lock down Ireland? And I don't think you could have.
Well, some of the states did, for a period, lock down to a certain degree, certainly on the East Coast anyway. I mean, but other nations, I mean, we saw how Italy and Spain locked down quite severely. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. The fallout now, given how many deaths and all that, it just, it's which is more important. But anyway.
In California, we locked down, right? And we were doing very, very well. I have a graph here. I meant to put up behind me to show you about how well we were doing until we started opening back up. In the county we live in, there was 44,000 cases, and there's been 731 deaths. But in the last 2 weeks, no, sorry, that's the Bay Area. That's the Bay Area. So a population of 8 million people, 731 deaths. In Santa Clara County, where I am, in the last 2 weeks, there's been 2,568 cases. And since it started, there's only been 8,000 cases. So in the last 2 weeks, we've had a quarter of all the cases in this county. So we had done really, really well. We closed down really early on the 13th of March, and it was going. We had it saved under control. But since we've opened up a little bit, since shelter-in-place restrictions were lifted, there's been a big spike, and a lot of the increase. There was a couple of outbreaks in prisons, which is happening. A lot of outbreaks in the lower social economic areas, the poorer areas, East San Jose, where a lot of people live tightly together. And in the age group between 18 and 34, there's been a big spike because of, I suppose, people partying or whatever, or getting together or hooking up, whatever it is. But they're the numbers. More than there's 2,500 cases in the last 2 weeks, 8,000 cases since it began.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I think the numbers, I'm not sure about all the numbers anymore, because I'm now convinced. I have a friend down here, his van is up the back there, and she got a really bad dose of the virus, COVID pneumonia, and she was in intensive care in Vincent's for a while and everything. And she was able to tell me there was a case identical to hers in Cork in November. And then I have my pal, Catherine, who actually was very, very ill in November. Like, she was nearly shifted. And she's now convinced that it was the COVID virus she caught, the COVID-19. And so, I mean, if you also then said you were very ill at New Year's, Derek.
Correct.
So, I mean, I am actually convinced, and have this from the start, that we've all had it. We've all brushed with it. And even on Joe Duffy today, they were speaking to people who had family in nursing homes, really elderly people, that tested positive, but they were asymptomatic. I honestly tell you, I think we've all had it. And it's just had its way and just moved on.
I think it might be a little off the mark there, but however, we'll revisit it later. There are some items I do want to discuss, but more importantly,
the masks.
Back to they're in All Ireland sweating, wondering if we're going to be talking about them. I know they are, right? Poor Elaine and Ryan. The coalition of the unwilling. What's going on? Are they killing each other behind closed doors?
Who's unwilling? The only unwilling are fucking Fianna Fáil members to rally around their.
So we have
the lads who got the gigs.
We have a bit of a dithering Taoiseach We've got some echo there. We have a bit of a dithering Taoiseach. We have Leo given a message on. He was giving a message on the Green list, separate to what the Taoiseach was saying, and then we've got the Greens who are. Well, the Greens are the Greens. They're falling asleep on the job. And we've also had a Green Party member.
Stop now, Derek. He was, or sorry, Neil. He was up all night talking to his lettuce and, minding his scallions and watering his.
We've also had a Green
like
Party
that.
member hand in her notice as well, because a few. So it doesn't seem all rosy in the garden. Like, this is not a house party that the guards are going to be breaking up at 4 a.m. because it's going so well. So where do you think this is heading? How long more is this holiday romance going to last?
Sorry, lads, right? Go on. Sorry, Derek. Go on.
I thought the Greens want to reduce the speed limits in the motorways down to 100 kilometers an hour. That's their latest proposal. They want to reduce from 120 down to 100.
Oh, Jesus, I'll be off the road, no problem.
Is that environmental reasons, or is it for safety reasons? Because
I think it's supposed to be environmental reasons. But again, this is what I said when I saw the Greens going into coalition. This is the sort of thing that's like they're going to get tripped up on, or
sure. Look, they'll put cycle lanes.
That makes them a mockery. It makes them a joke, Whereas if they could concentrate on doing something like pedestrianising the town centres or putting in real quality cycle lanes, then you see Green Party support rising. But when they start talking things like, reducing speed limits on the motorways, like, people just aren't going to buy it,
Yeah, when we heard all this nonsense,
I think the support for Greens is pretty much urban. They wouldn't have, outside urban areas, Dublin, Limerick City, Galway City, Cork City. I do think that their core support is urban, because they had 2 poll toppers in February, that's Eamon Ryan and Catherine Martin, and they're both in urban constituencies. So I'm very disappointed with Saoirse McHugh, because she definitely, since she sort of came onto the scene in the presidential, in the European election last year, I was really looking forward to, just hearing more about her, because she kind of introduced something new to debates and a new voice in politics. And she was young and she was a woman, and there was an awful lot to look forward to within her. And then I see then today she is in her tweet series, thread, whatever they're called, that she doesn't believe in electoral politics. I have a serious problem with that, because for me, I understand the disappointment of not getting elected. And I know people they go into an election thinking they don't have a chance, or they're just building their profile. But it's when they hear the returning officer say, "You're eliminated. I'm eliminating so and so." Literally, it's then they realise the show is over. Even though they might be putting on a brave face when they're going door to door, and they know where they are in the local polls, But it's when the returning officer actually says, "I will be eliminating." So I can understand the pain, because I've seen it as well, and so I can understand where that took its toll on her, because particularly in the European election, that constituency is lunatic. It's so big. There's no way she would have covered even a third of it, and she made a huge impression, and she really took on Peter Casey in a way that very few other candidates have done. And and then to hear this thing today about she doesn't believe in electoral politics, like, she had no business accepting the Green Party's nomination then. And I think that was very unfair on her party colleagues, because maybe somebody else does.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you look at some of the candidates in the Dáil today, right? I mean, you look at is it Dublin Central or Dublin North Central that has Mary Fitzpatrick? I'd say she has been beaten or left out of at least 15 elections, between locals and generals down through the years, when it was Bertie's ran the show, when Bertie Ahern ran the show. Jim O'Callaghan himself has been disappointed many times in election. So, politics, particularly in Ireland, is a long, long road, So I found that very disappointing. That like, and then even the splinter group in the Greens, like, I'm actually very disappointed. I understand that they didn't want to go into government, but ultimately the party decided to go into government. But I think they need to see it now, particularly the younger Greens. They need to see it for the opportunity it is. I mean, Saoirse is a very smart woman. Like, she has an opportunity to draft legislation to help her colleagues, to put green policies out there. And the idea that she thinks she's going to change it without being in Dáil Éireann or having a contribution at the legislature, it's very naive. But you see, politics is a long, long road. I mean, Willie O'D is knocking around, must be 40 years, and he's still cribbing he hasn't got a ministerial, Like,
I agree with an awful lot of what you're saying. I have huge admiration for any single person that puts their name on a ballot and puts their head above the parapet and says, like, ask the people for a vote. I mean, it's one of the best things you can do in a democracy, and I certainly haven't been brave enough to do it. And put my name on a poster and try and get people to back my ideas. So I have a huge amount of respect for anybody who puts their name on a ballot. You're right, when it comes to that moment when you're eliminated, no matter who you are, that's crushing. That is crushing to be announced that the people have rejected you, even if you've got thousands of votes. But that moment,
and it's that moment that is when they hear it. It literally, because I've a pal that's run a good few times, and she always knew she wasn't getting through this time either. But it's just the moment, and she's at the tally from 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning, getting everyone sorted out, because she'll be organising the tally for the party. But the moment, it's like midnight, and she knows she's not getting anywhere. But when they hear it, there is just this. It's like a ton of bricks.
Rejection. The feeling of rejection. In terms of Saoirse McHugh, I say I'm living over here the last 4 years, so she wasn't on my radar. The first time I heard of her was when it looked like she had won the European seat. Like the early tallies had her well ahead, and like I saw an interview with her on RT where they were actually congratulating her, and she was like saying what a wonderful victory it was. And then to have that taken away from her was like that must have been really, really difficult. I do admire the principle of resigning, and like the party is moving in a direction she doesn't agree with, and it does take again lots of bravery, balls, should I say, to actually stand up for a principle and resign, and put your money where your mouth is. But Vanessa, you're right. In terms of there's a naivety to it, in terms of what they're going to achieve, and if politics is the art of the possible, then you're not going to achieve something by not playing the game.
You see, I don't think she. Look, I'll take this back, no problem. But it strikes me that it all got so hyped so fast from giving Casey a good lesson in the European, and then it was all about the locals, the general, and there was is she going to run in Fingal, in the by-election, and there was an awful lot of talk. I actually think the younger generations, let's just say the Windows generation, right, they seem to think politics and favorability and votes are the same as likes on your Facebook or your and it's not. You have to go out and drag the vote out of people, and it doesn't happen quickly. Now, I know it all happened with Sinn Féin, but Sinn Féin had years on the clock as a party, so and actually I think that's her next move, I'll be honest with you. There might be a bit old one-ish of me, but I actually think herself and Rose Conway Walsh there in Mayo would make a good team. And remember, one of the winners in the European election was Matt McCarthy, and he's now in Leinster House. So his second is holding that seat for the moment. So maybe there's an opportunity for a Sinn Féin as a Sinn Féin candidate. I wouldn't be I think her next move might be Sinn Féin or taking a senior policy job with a Green Party minister.
But you're right as well about her comment on the electoral politics. I mean,
Yeah.
She has a lot of views, though. She's a lot of very extreme leftist views. Would they be aligned with Sinn Féin? I mean, she's anti-capitalist. She'd made a call for the Greens to be anti-capitalist last year.
Yeah, but this might come across as patronising and stuff, but we all have loads of ideas we want to do. But you can only do one at a time or only get so far with it. I mean, some of the stuff that Saoirse, a lot of it is idealism. And, once you get into Leinster House or let's just say a council level, you have to lobby, you have to build relationships, you have to learn the ropes, get yourself on some committees. And, getting elected to anything doesn't mean everything is going to happen for you in your manifesto in the matter of weeks. It takes years.
I think there is room for idealism. I think there isn't enough idealism in politics. I think there's too many people who are willing. I know you have to compromise, but there's too many people who are willing to give up their principles and not have a red line. And I think when you have principled people, that helps to move the dial. Okay, so I mightn't get all my principles, but by the fact that I'm enunciating my principles, the fact that I'm putting my principles, I'm nailing my colours to a mast, then I pull people in my direction. And so the more people who are principled, the better for politics. And I would lean left to centre, but I think there's a strong place for a centre-right argument in Ireland that isn't really being made. And there's a strong case for a centre-left argument that isn't really being made. It's very, very hard to tell the difference between the parties. And you can see that by the way the coalition worked. Like Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Greens are got together. The Greens could have just as easily gone into coalition with Sinn Féin and the Social Democrats and Labour. Like, would it be radically different?
Yeah, but you know what though? Like, we keep using Saoirse as the model for this, and there was other members. There's a current TD joined that splinter group as well. I think they must have known what being in a party whip, and under a party whip means. Surely at this stage, and they voted no, not to support the programme for government. But I don't know. I don't believe for a second that they wouldn't have taken the benefits of having a minister, having access to a minister, because that would be very narrow-minded and short-tempered on behalf of the constituency you want to represent. And I don't mean the geographical constituency. Somebody like Saoirse has a wider reach. She's probably capable of attracting more people, younger people, into politics, or promoting a more sustainable. I understand her area is sustainable farming, and she has a profile and she has an opportunity to sell her message. It's a bit like we said here a few weeks ago about Paul Murphy and Joan Collins, these independents, how they have a huge wide range of issues, because that's and they're able to talk at length about a wider range of very unique, almost boutique issues. But when you're in government, or when you're a minister, you don't have the luxury of indulging every view or every issue that appeals to you. You have to kind of deal with a programme, a budget, a party whip. You have to stick with what can be done. And I suppose they are able to do that, you know, and because maybe it's because they accept they will never be in government and they will never have to make the decision. You can't, you have to compartmentalize and you have to strategize. And ultimately, the job of government is very different to being an independent in the opposition ranks.
Absolutely. But one of the things with the splinter group within the Greens, right, just to go back to my point about moving the dial, like the Green ministers that are there now, right, having that splinter group allows them to fight for their position harder, because they have to say we have to keep our little splinter group happy. If we don't, it gives the likes of Eamon Ryan and Catherine Martin, like we have to look after our guys. Our guys won't back this. So the fact that they have a loud splinter group making noise, that helps to forward their agenda. You know, because like when they go into negotiations for a budget or whatever it is, they have to take into account that section of the party. You know, so that's what I'm saying. When you do have ideals, and when you have a principle, that can help to move the dial in your direction. And if nothing else, it gives the leadership who are the ministerial roles, it gives them a bargaining chip to be able to push their agenda.
Yeah, I would agree largely with that. However, the Green Party got great ministries. They so much, like, even if you look at Eamon Ryan's alone, his communications and local government and transport, like the stuff he could achieve if, you know,
if he sticks to good ideas and not like the nonsense. If he can make changes that really affect people's lives. This is what things like cycle lanes and things like pedestrianising cities are only good things. And if they can do that, and if after 3 years we start to see Dublin full of bikes and Carlow full of bikes and Kilkenny full of bikes, you could say, yeah, wow, the Greens are actually really making a difference. But if they come out with the nonsense of like, let's reduce speed on motorways, let's have like one car per village, this sort of nonsense, like then they become a laughing stock.
But you see, they're in government now, so they'll have toned all that down, and their departments, their department senior secretaries and stuff will hone all that in, you know. But they all came out when they were either running for something or they were in opposition, you know. I think there's been a sharp shock for some members of the more recent members of the Green Party to, you know, that politics is about getting elected and then it's about getting into government. And there isn't a TD out there that doesn't tell you, if you don't have access to a minister, there's no point opening your constituency office. You know, you won't, nothing gets done. I feel there was an enormous naivety. It's an enormous naivety. That's the way. Listen, that's the way it is since the founding of the state. If you have access to a minister, or if there's a minister in your constituency, you're laughing.
But there's a lack of ideas. It really is. Like, we need a minister. It's pork belly stuff, you know. Like, what can I guess out? If I have a minister, I might get a bypass or a new roundabout, or maybe my school might get a gym, or, you know, and that's what's wrong with politics. And instead of having like.
But you see, they all go into it thinking one day that's me. I mean, how many TDs did turn down their pay rise? Sinn Féin were the only ones.
Doesn't mean we have to like them anymore, though, Vanessa.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just they go into this. You know, one day they hope that's me. Lads are looking at Jack Chambers and they're looking at Helen McAtee and they're thinking, Jesus, that could be me one day. Well, they once they get in there, they play the same game as all the lads that went in there before.
Well, like, the Greens are essentially a party of idealists and dreamers. Like, as Derek said, there's a lot of stuff they come out with that is barefaced nonsense. But the stuff about pedestrianising and turning the country into one big cycle lane, That's great on one hand, but the flip side of it is, you can't. The economy is a bunch of levers. You can't pedestrianize Dublin City and think that's going to solve problems, because Dublin's not a city that people live in the city centre or work in the city centre and live in the city centre. They have to commute. How long ago was it before we had buses that terminated in the city centre, and how long did it take before we started getting cross city buses? So it's one thing to say we want to pedestrianize something, but if you don't in the same breath say, here's how we're going to address the impact that will have on people who can't cycle from Newbridge to Dublin city centre or whatever commuter town you're in or what have you. Now, while the coronavirus change on the future of work and people being able to be flexible and work from home is going to have a positive impact, that's not going to be down to the Greens. Essentially, I can't see anything good coming out of this for the Greens other than them annihilating themselves the same way they did the last time they got into coalition.
I don't think they will. I think I don't think they'll be annihilated. I actually think they have some great ministries that they can do an awful lot with, and I think they'll make their mark if they keep it together. I suspect they'll do better out of this government than Fianna Fáil, because Fianna Fáil can't. Every day is another calamity for them.
It's like Bill Clinton said. It's the economy, stupid. As long as people aren't hurting their pocket, then they have a chance of surviving. But if there's any mention of austerity and cutbacks, that's the thing that will annihilate all three parties. I see that there's a new European deal after being done, and what you call it, a bailout or no, what's it called, a recovery plan in the European Union, and it seems that Ireland is going to be a net contributor, possibly for the first time. We're going to be giving more money into the European Union than we're going to get in return. I suppose the hope there is that if Europe recovers and we can increase our trade, that it will boost. That's how Ireland will get a boost out of it. But for the first time, I think only Luxembourg are contributing more per head of population than we are to the recovery fund.
Well, this is interesting, Derek.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just going to say, because I did want to ask you about this as well, Vanessa. This is interesting, Derek, because I'm not sure if it's been covered in the US media at all, but certainly in Europe, reading both the Spanish press and the Irish press, the Spanish press have been very detailed in their analysis of what has happened. In fact, even today, they're still talking about, there's an article in one of the Spanish papers which talks what happened hour by hour in those 90 hours of negotiations. But I'm not necessarily seeing that same level of detail in the Irish media. It's as confusing as the Green List debacle as to what Ireland actually gains from this deal other than debt. I mean, JDF Reality is on fire tonight in the chat bit, and he's made a tongue-in-cheek comment about, the Apple tax case and the impact that had us in this negotiation.
But the Apple tax case was completely misreported anyway. Well, this idea that we were getting 13 billion, sure it wasn't. We'd have had to ended up giving the Brits their share, the Belgians their share, the French their share, the Spanish their share, because was the taxes it was the income from all the European.
Yeah, it was diluted. But
so we would have been lucky to see it out of it.
Do either of you know what the tangible gain is for Ireland? Like, we know we have a cost.
The tangible gain is supposed to be if the European economy recovers, and Ireland is a small open economy, we trade with Europe. So by having a strong European economy, that's going to help Ireland. That's going to lift our boats. That's the selling point.
But is that not what artists are told, that the equivalent of you get good exposure if you do this free thing?
You work for free.
But was Brexit leveraged against us? Because we did get a sweetener as part of the Brexit piece. So was that leveraged against us with the bigger economic?
Before we go on to that, just to go back to your point about how it's been reported and what you're seeing in Spain, how it's been reported in Spain, there's a big problem with the Irish media in lack of diversity, lack of voices. But all the main media in Ireland is pro-Europe. We genuflect Europe. Anything that comes out of Europe, we bow. The people of Ireland rejected 2 European treaties, and were made to vote again, threatened and bullied into voting again to get them accepted. The idea of the European Union is fantastic, but the way it's run, the democratic deficit that's involved in it, and there's one of my
but Derek,
one of my pet bugbears of it is there's 5 presidents in the European Union. 5. Now we're political junkies. We're all over it. But I'd say between the 3 of us, we'd have a job naming the 5 presidents. But everything that comes out of Europe is reported as a good thing on RTE, the Irish Independent, Irish Times. It's look at
but let's name one good thing. One good thing. One good thing is they took Phil Hogan off our hands. So I give them that, And I think the veto is probably the best thing we have at the moment with Europe. If that changes, and the only thing that stops it changing is a referendum. We'd need a referendum here for Europe's reach to be changed beyond what it is now, and their powers. I think if we didn't have the veto, we'd be pretty screwed, overall, I think we're better off in Europe than we're out of it. And I did say a while back on previous show about the origins of the EU was traditionally in a co-op. It was a co-op agreement for steel and coal. Yeah. And, I think it's time maybe to go back to those roots where it is, okay, we do have the one member, one vote, but they must have run rings around Micheál Martin last week. He must have been starstruck, realising he was finally here, as Taoiseach.
We love a little bit of praise. Our leaders seem to love a little bit of praise
pat
from
on
Europe.
the back.
Pat on the head, we're great Europeans, and look at, you don't want something like Brexit. Brexit was about xenophobia and hatred and it was just nasty, and nobody suggesting that. There's a great idea behind the European Union. Free travel, free movement is fantastic, and Europe has done an awful lot of good. But we need to have an honest conversation and say there's an awful lot wrong with the European Union and the direction it's taken. And there isn't an appetite amongst the populace for ever closer integration. People, no population, there's not a majority in any country for ever closer integration. People are proud of their nationality, and they want to retain their sovereignty and retain their independence, and being able to reject what they don't like.
Lads, sorry, Derek, I have to go on mute there for a minute. The dog is going bananas. Hang on.
Sounds like there's a bit of a party going on in the background. I hope there's less than 10 people from less than 4 different households there, Vanessa. She can't hear us now. Sorry, Derek.
You're okay. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to ask a question, and I cut you off.
No, it was. Yeah, I was wondering really about. No, you're totally fine. The Brexit leverage. How much of that? It's the anti-Europe sentiment. Falling short of saying it seems to always be a bunch of nutcases in Ireland and UK who sped on the Brexit, the anti-Europe sentiment. But the backslapping thing. We're a nation of ego and maniacs. This thing of. We punch above our weight and all that kind of carry on. There was the financial deal, certainly looking at it from the Spanish press, it was very much an us and them attitude between the southern European states and the northern states. Certainly Spain had a bit of a chip on their shoulder that Pascal got the European finance job because their candidate, the Spanish candidate, was tipped to get it and had the support of Germany and the other big countries. And Spain was very concerned about that loss. The other fear that Spain had and Italy as well was with this negotiation. Like the Dutch PM got, well, in all media, most particularly a lot of what I read here was very negative about the Dutch guy who was dragging his heels. I can't remember his name now, or the Dutch Prime Minister. but even in Spain, they're now happy with the deal, but it now puts pressure on them with some of the labor reform laws that they wanted to introduce. So it's not all fine in the garden. But I just found it incredibly interesting that when I opened the Spanish papers, they talked in detail about what happened, what was going on, the material gains, whereas all we saw was pictures of Michal and the smile on his face. And it didn't know, I just speaking generally here, there were, some column space dedicated to it, but not to the same degree I saw here. And it does make me wonder, why that is, what that means. Is this feeding a bigger agenda of, like, do people really care? Do we just want to know what's in it for Ireland without seeing the bigger, like, what I know might be rambling a bit, but what was very interesting to me here was that the press laid out who stands to gain and who stands to lose, or what stands to be gained and what stands to be lose by the different factions within this negotiation. And in fact, one article I read talked about how actually, and I did see this in the Irish media as well, but certainly in Spain as well, they talked about the fact that there was an agreement reached, but behind the scenes, they're not so sure if everyone agreed and is on the same page as to what that means. But I didn't see a whole lot of discussion around that either. So it's just very interesting. Like, you can't have 90 hours of negotiation that's covered in a smiley face and we got through and we agreed 750 billion.
Exactly. And what you said there, like, the anti-EU brigade, is like, I don't want to be associated with them at all. I mean, there's so much with the European Union that's good, and Ireland has benefited hugely, and like the fact that you're in Spain there now and you're able to just go across no problem, it's fantastic. That without visas or all that sort of stuff. So the European Union is like a lot of good, but we do not hear any critical voice in mainstream media in Ireland, and that's never healthy. It's never healthy when somebody isn't able to stand up without being a lunatic, without being like.
Well, that's it, because we do have some journalists, love them or hate them. Ivan Yates, particularly during the coronavirus, reached the point where he was spitting fire at the government. But like that, the response certainly on social media was, he's just a lunatic and all that. Whereas I don't always agree with Ivan Yates, but certainly some of the comments he did make were on point. And regardless of the grandstanding of it, or how it's demonstrated, how he does that standing up rant on News Talk, the points are valid. Some of the points are valid, but yeah, you're right. We don't see that, and when we do see it, it's viewed as extremist, off the wall, lark.
And you're labeled with that brush, Oh, they're just a lunatic. You know what I mean? They're just he's like Nigel Farage or something like that, and like that's not going to be good for the EU in the long run. Like, there has to be a free exchange of ideas, and if the EU is afraid of criticism, that's.
I don't think they're afraid of criticism. I just think they're not used to the paddies, I suppose, being a bit more active. I think in standing up for themselves. We kind of I think there's like an attitude, we take what's given to us and we're thrilled with that. I think Pascal getting the gig was a big show of strength for the smaller countries, because they're the ones that voted for him. I don't think we've reached our potential within the European Parliament, and I think that's probably one of the criticisms people might, from this side looking on it, is I don't think we've reached our potential there, and maybe that's down to the representatives we elect to go out there. I think it's probably a good idea for, as you said, name the 5 presidents. We kind of tend to know who only if somebody gets a job out there, like, say, I go back to Phil Hogan as an example, or Mairead McGuinness. But I think it's one of those things that we need to look at a bit more seriously, and maybe send more serious people out there that can shake it up and can be seen as leaders within the European Parliament, not just the sort of the MEP from Munster, be an actual leader out there.
Yeah, it's also Europe though, and Vanessa, you're the celebrity accountant, the finance guru. Ireland is not a big fish in Europe by any means,
No.
and in fact, some of the small fish are big
Red
fish.
Petty Cashton.
The small fish with the big voices are the likes of Spain and Italy, who are far larger economies, bigger countries, and those voices are seem to be perceived to be listened to a lot harder, even though the people in those countries don't necessarily see it that way. But I think another problem we have in Ireland, this is just my own opinion from what I observe from talking to friends and the likes, people don't really understand how the Parliament and how the Commission works. We often hear that tripe of these unelected officials acting on our behalf and all that crap. But people don't really understand or understand how it works. A simple example, I've said this before on the show, the EU really needs to hire a marketing person because the EU is not very good at publicizing the work that they do. In the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, there was a lot of talk online of what are the EU doing? And the EU was doing a hell of a lot in terms of money being put into, dealing with it and the research that was on. But you had to go looking for this information. It wasn't being dropped into mailboxes. It wasn't being easily publicized. And so the EU needs to work on its marketing a lot better. But also, I think as European citizens, Irish people as well, we should educate ourselves on how the EU works, the role that we play, the fundamentals of the hierarchy of its setup. Because there is a perception in some quarters that it's rooms of crusty old white men making decisions, nasty decisions on behalf of the Illuminati, which, it's just...
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of it is also that the people we sent out there, because if you look at the current batch of MEPs out there at the moment, I mean, Matt came out, he topped the poll, but he then ran for the Dáil in February. And the only other part, like they don't tend to be politicians that win Dáil elections. In the main, I know there are those, like Owen Ryan would have been one of them, that would have stepped out in national politics and ran for Europe. But I'm not sure I go back to what I said a few minutes ago. I think maybe we need to take the Parliament a bit more seriously. And like a Rosa Tralee, a former Rosa Tralee, who has never done any public, has never been at council level or any level of on the national political scene, is currently an MEP. Do you know what I mean? And the same with Sean Kelly. He's in Munster, the former head of the GA, a former chair of the president of the Túchran Cumann Lupus Game. Do you know what I mean? I think we need to take the Parliament more seriously and find more serious people to elect, to put on the ticket. I think that's our first step. I mean, for anyone to think Europe has done nothing, I mean, look at the amount of equality legislation that they made Ireland come get around to. Okay, I guess it's that we would have got there in the end, but I mean, even tax equalisation and all that didn't come here till the 90s, early 90s. Do you know what I mean? And that's all on the back of being part of the European, it was the EC then, but there's an awful lot that's kind of happened here that was at the nudge of the European Parliament.
Absolutely, no, 100%. And we can't underestimate how
important. Just roads, like.
We can't underestimate how important the EU has been for Ireland. Absolutely, and just in terms of a contrast with the United States and how did they handle coronavirus, I mean, it's remarkable to see the numbers coming out of the European Union and the numbers coming out of the United States. Europe has done far superior job, no question. Which is remarkable. 27 different countries. It's quite remarkable how much better the EU have handled it. I mean, there's cases like Arizona had more cases than the EU won the days last week. Just one state in America had more cases than the whole EU.
Yeah, but I go back to that thing, Derek, that we throughout Europe we have a better public healthcare system. I know
Yeah.
I know our own HSE and the NHS are, you know, they're not, you know, the best of
Yeah.
specimens of example, but it's still 10 times better than what the you know, the everyday person in Arizona has
Yeah.
access to for free. And also we would have a stronger social welfare net in Western Europe than they would have in the States.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think a lot of that lends to the fact that we are healthier and we've more easily access to healthcare. I think it's a blend of those two things, by the way. I don't necessarily believe, I think the numbers should take that into account. But you know,
But the fact is there is that contrast in numbers. The United States is up here, the EU is down here in terms of how they're handling the case. So for whatever the reason, like you're right in what you're saying, 100% correct. But the outcome is a much better outcome in the European Union than in the United States. So, like for all my criticism of the European Union, I do have to acknowledge that.
I just want to stop there because just welcome the infamous John Ryan to the party. Hello, John. Welcome.
Hi there. Hello.
Hey, John.
Hey.
How are you
Good to
doing?
see you.
Hey, Derek.
The bow is for me, by the way. Just so that.
See, people wonder.
Curtsy.
People say, "Why doesn't John come on when the show starts?" But I mean, look at the kitchen behind him. It takes hours to get that kitchen spotless. It's so shiny.
But I'm asleep. Like I slept the last 3 Thursday nights. I can wake up about midnight, and
it's good to know we put the boss to sleep when we do the show.
Where's Derek speaking from? Is it Arizona?
No, he's
It's
Los
Garden.
Gatos, which is the Fox Rock of Silicon Valley. He's in Los Gatos.
Okay. Very nice.
Just have you papers for us, John?
Yeah.
He's got a big scoop for us on Bake Off, Neil.
Oh, lovely.
But
before we get to the papers, just while we're on coronavirus, if I could just very quickly, because we had the green list debacle and we have a green list this week, and I just thought to kind of give it a mention. So we have our country of 15, or our coalition of 15 countries, 3 of which we can't fly directly to. So I don't know. Rumor has it John is going to sponsor a broadsheet on the telly excursion to Greenland, where we're going to stream from Greenland and not have to quarantine when we come back or restrict our movements. But I did want to mention though, because we did the broadcast from Spain last week, and obviously Spain is on the green list. Spain, as you can see in the Irish media, the Catalonia region has some challenges there. And there is a variety of outbreaks across the country. In fact, one region today, the Murcia region, there's a town in that region which has gone back to phase 1 of lockdown. So cases are increasing in the country. But there are some interesting though details that are coming out as part of that. The death rate has remained constant even though the cases have gone up. And Spain are finding what Ireland has found as well, and that cases now are being hit in the 20 to 40-year-old categories. And it's a mix of house parties, nightclubs, and family gatherings are the culprit. But also Spain, after they came out of the state of alarm, state of emergency, they, I suppose, delegated coronavirus responsibilities to local health clinics and health centres, which is the equivalent of your GP in Ireland. And now they're kind of, some of them in the regions are in different regions are reaching capacity because they're juggling your regular GP stuff and now having to test the younger people. So it's interesting. So one of the health ministers today did say that maybe this is Spain experiencing the second wave, but it's interesting that it's not having the same impact that it did obviously February, March time. There's a greater understanding and a greater, like the Spanish are going in, with the exception of Catalonia, which there's a variety of issues there. But outside of that region, Spain, the authorities are going in, they're locking places down and they're keeping it under control. And, any talk of a nationwide lockdown is certainly very much off the table at this point. And some regions, the region I'm in, the Valencia region, is at the lower end of the scale. There's panic when there was a town maybe an hour from here, they had an outbreak of 4 people all within the family. That's another thing that's been mentioned, is community transmission isn't always apparent in these outbreaks either, isn't always an issue in these outbreaks. But there was an outbreak of 4 people in a family in one of the towns an hour from where I am. and the media jumped on it as if the world is ending. So you can see how very serious it's been taken. Again, it comes back to what I've mentioned before, is, you know, when inevitably this happens in Ireland, I know we're seeing it now on building sites, you know, but what level of action will we see in Ireland when there is the inevitable outbreak, when there is a spike in somewhere, more than likely be Dublin? Are we going to see a nationwide lockdown, as was hinted on News Talk 2 weeks ago, or will there be local action? I don't know. I don't know if that's a question or a rant or a
Do
thing.
you know what, Neil? I don't give a shite whether you're locked down or not. There you go.
That's because not even coronavirus will get into the sea there in British Bay. It's so bloody cold.
But some of us are just tougher than the rest of you.
That's it. John, sorry, now the papers there. Do you want to talk us through the papers?
Hey, I haven't got any of the Irish papers. I've only got the English ones, and I haven't posted them yet. But I'll go down to Vanessa's Bake Off scoop. Involved Paul Hollywood.
Kissing someone.
No, well, Hollywood alert over TwitterCon. Doesn't sound as good as they sell it. 1 second.
Well, I know he closed his old Twitter account because they found out he'd done this thing where you buy followers. I'm not sure.
Oh, he bought followers, did he?
But on his old Twitter account, and then then they set up a new Twitter account, and somebody manages it from, you know.
Yeah.
He's just so busy. Yeah.
Well, he's got there's a tweet from him saying that, morning all, he's seeking, there's people impersonating him online. Vanessa, do you know anything about that?
But that's Neil trying to let on he could do sourdough, is it? Lads thinking they're bakers.
No, but I mean, even for the Star, this is a pretty weak story. I don't know. Vanessa,
is that lads?
You must know what's going on there. Somebody is impersonating him online. I don't know why they're doing that, but it's a con. It's a Twitter con.
Oh, right. So like they were letting on, they were Paul Hollywood, and okay. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't.
We got
see
free
it.
cakes and stuff. It's a scone. Sorry, it's a con. Okay, that's the Star.
Why would anyone do that to Paul Hollywood? Jesus.
Well,
that's an awful thing to be doing.
Well, I expect, he's a big name, so they just wanted to use his name.
Well, he is a catch, so.
The masks are coming into effect kind of seriously tomorrow in Britain, and although you can't see them, but you will in a moment, the public's still reluctant to wear masks in the UK, whereas I think in Ireland, Vanessa, didn't you say in Tesco? Today?
Oh yeah, today everyone had masks. There was no problem. Everyone got on with it.
Right.
I have to be honest with you. Like, I do find them a bit. Well, I suppose when you wear glasses, it's a pain in the arse. But yeah.
Put the mask under your glasses. Put your glasses over the nose piece of the mask.
Do you tell people to do that in shops, Neil?
Well, that makes it more convenient, or makes it more manageable for people. It's just people moaning. Look at these cranks down in British Bay. I have to go to Tesco to get another 6-pack of Dutch Gold. They're going to have to put on the bloody mask. That's all it is, Vanessa. No, if you wear glasses, put the glasses over the mask.
Oh, you're picking on me for now.
I'm not picking on you at all.
I'm a serious anti-masker, so I won't get stuck into this, Neil.
Oh dear.
I saw Sean.
John, I can't let you out with that. You're a serious anti-masker.
What? Yeah, I'm a big anti-masker. Yeah.
But it keeps you safe and it protects other people. What's the?
Yeah, I don't actually believe that. I mean, I don't really believe that at all. In fact, I've heard so many contradictory things about the mask that
it gets into it.
I beg your pardon?
It.
What about a tinfoil one, John? Would you wear a tinfoil one?
The valve.
Silver would be lovely.
The mask with the valve doesn't work.
Yeah, that's been banned now in Spain. They're not going to allow them anymore.
Yeah.
The mask, the N9 or not the N, yeah, is the ones with the valves. Yeah, they're no
Yeah.
longer permitted, which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that kind of
This
it's certainly messing with people's heads. I don't know. I mean, everybody had a valve with their mask last week, and now they're all in serious trouble with their valves.
Yeah.
But you know the mask Johnny Depp wears, the scarf, is that allowed?
If it's cloth, yeah.
It's a face covering, Neil. Is that okay?
Yeah, if it's as long as it's cloth and it covers the nose and the mouth and it doesn't have a filter or an air hole in
What
it.
about one of those, John?
That's a
Would you
relief.
wear
At least Johnny will be safe. What's that, Vanessa?
Would you wear one of those ones like Johnny Depp has?
Well, I wouldn't wear any mask. Not a mask. I'm not into masks at all, and I think not to get too heavy, but I do think the visual sort of effect on children, old people,
It is very stark. You're right.
mentally bewildered. Anybody who's not on with the program like Neil and Derek.
I'm more worried about getting fined.
I think it's a small. I think it's a small thing to do to try and as I said, even if it doesn't protect me, it might protect somebody else. And I just have, I think the compliance over here has been very, very good, very strong, and I think it's a small thing to do. It's a small sacrifice to make.
But Derek, I mean, you could be wearing masks for the rest of your life then. I mean, they don't really see an end to this. They want to keep this going because they can't believe probably what they've got away with so much. They can't believe that people are wearing masks in Tesco's,
But I think that's a fair point because ultimately the one message that hasn't changed since the start is good hand hygiene. And certainly here in Spain, you can't walk into a supermarket. Well, obviously you can't walk into a supermarket with a mask, but all of the stores, all the supermarkets have somebody at the door ensuring that you put on hand sanitizer walking in the door. I was at a market earlier this evening, an outdoor market, and every single stall had a hand sanitizer, so you couldn't touch any of the goods without. So you literally were squirting. If you went to 20 shops, there was 20 different hand sanitizers. There was a fun fair behind the market, and kind of like the Funderland setup, and they literally were spraying the bumper cars between each ride, and kids had to have the hand sanitizers on. So that messaging hasn't changed, and that certainly I don't know if it's in Ireland if that has improved. And certainly when I was there was no pushing of the hand sanitizer before you went anywhere. But I think if you were to have to make a call between a mask and a hand sanitizer, I think hand sanitizer, if everyone's doing it, is going to trump. But like I say, I'm fearful of fines, so I'll wear the mask.
How is the mask with your beard?
It improved. Well, it's an improvement.
It's a matching one.
I don't have to trim. Well, I suppose I could just put on the mask and trim around to get my beard perfect. But I don't.
Have you got a surgical mask because they're wrong as well.
I don't wear. So I got a couple of cotton ones and that I wear, and actually, I don't.
It looks like a jock strap.
And this will probably throw fuel on John's fire, but I won't mention the store. But there's a sports store that sells masks for athletes, and I call it the thong mask because the material is so thin. Vanessa's eyes. The material is so thin. I would be highly surprised if it offers protection in any way, shape, or form. But it's still a legitimate mask because it's material and it covers your face and your nose, and it's much easier in the heat to wear that. But I know I can clean my sunglasses by breathing on them through the mask, and my breath will hit the glass. So
Neil, I know somebody who works in the prison service. I know lots of people who work in the prison service, but I know one person who works in the prison service who had a beard for the last 5-6 years, and he had to shave his beard. He was ordered by work to shave his beard because it wasn't getting proper protection with the mask.
What about the kind of the Ronnie Drew guys? I mean, the McGregor kind of wannabe type beards.
They probably have the big plastic things around them so everyone can see them.
Wouldn't their beard be part of their wouldn't they have to cover that up?
Yeah, because all the snot dribbles down, doesn't it, Neil? If you...
Well, I don't know. I mean, as you can see from my beard, I do this before the show because no one sees it from any other day of the week. No, I don't know. I mean, you don't see a lot of bearded people here in Spain. I don't see many Ronnie Drew types. I did tonight see a musician singer with a surgical mask on, and he had a beard underneath. Now, he was very cool and hip, so it wasn't a big beard. And it was unusual to see a busker singing through a mask while playing guitar. That was unusual, but I don't know. I think John is trying to campaign me to shave this off. I think that's what John.
No. Just on the mask thing, because when I see a busker with a mask and people on the beach with a mask, like it upsets me, and not upsets me, but it actually does upset me, but I find it disturbing. But to you, Neil, that's like, this is great, and you'd only wish that they'd wash their hands as well as.
Well, science says that it does reduce the possibility, but it doesn't eliminate it. And you have to factor in the mask has to be worn correctly. But it doesn't, our other orifices are still open, our eyes and our ears. But it does reduce it. And I think for the most part, what governments seem to do is put out these blanket advice. Like in Spain now, most regions you have to now, it's been introduced here since last Friday, but it's being strictly enforced from this Friday by way of more fines. You have to wear a mask even when you are socially distanced outdoors. Now, there's no science to support that. The government in Lanzarote said to hell with that, there's no science, but other governments, regions in Spain have succumbed to it. So yeah, I mean, that's preposterous that we'd have to do that. But again, it's the fines. The Spanish police don't ask you where's your mask or why aren't you wearing a mask. They just write the ticket and give you abuse.
Well, I'm in Barcelona here, right? And I got stopped in the shop or the supermarket. I said, I got a respirito, problem. It just it's pretty. People are pretty cool here. I mean, she wasn't actually. She started screaming at me, but.
Were you fine? Did she fine you, or did she seek proof that you were?
Well, she wasn't in the secret police, Neil. She was just like a shopper.
Okay.
But no, she just said, "Mask. Where's your mask?" And I was like, I didn't want to go into the political thing or anything. I said
you're Spanish. If you'd better Spanish, you would have, wouldn't you, John?
Yes. If I was speaking Catalan, if she was speaking Catalan, So I said, respirito, and she went, no, out. And followed by kind of customers also joining in the chorus. But it was fine. I was actually looking for something that the shop didn't have.
But so, I mean, to put you on the spot then, John, respectfully, it's inevitable. If you go out tomorrow and you pass a cop on the street, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, you know what the cops are like there. What do you think will happen?
Well, I have passed cops with the local Guardia, and without a mask. I really have. I mean, they're Catalan people. They're not into,
they're
well, maybe they used to be. Sorry, go on.
No. Sorry, Vanessa.
No, I'm just saying that what John said there about the Catalans, I mean, if Madrid said everyone had to wear a mask, it wouldn't be unusual for some people there to say.
Well, that's what the news is saying.
Opposite.
Well, that's what I thought would happen in Ireland. I really didn't think that Ireland would take to it at all. And I didn't think Twitter, which is just full of these bullying journalists and doctors and everybody scolding you and paid celebrities and shilling.
Punishment tweeting.
So-called hip people being like really authoritarian and like, really kind of Christian brothery. But I thought there'd be some resistance, except more than John Waters and Gemma Dara. I thought it would be a much larger kind of just general common sense. What the hell is going on? This is not who we are. This is not what we are.
Yeah, but John, I think
don't get me on the nursing homes, really. No, really. I mean,
I think people just want to get the feckin' place open, and they just we've been asked to do this and they're doing it. I mean, I'll only wear a mask because I'm asked to do it in the shop.
I know, but you've got to live beyond tomorrow. You know, some people are worried that this is going to be a permanent fixture, and we don't want masks on our children. We don't want masks. And what father? I'm a childless guy. What father wants that, or what mother would allow that with their children? It's. Sorry,
genuinely, I'm a bit gobsmacked, because for me, it's literally about trying to keep people safe, and like.
Okay, Derek. Yeah, I know. Science.
Like it's like, I honestly, if you didn't, where I'm living at the moment here in California, if you went into a store not wearing a mask, you'd be a pariah. Just like people have just like, I mean, just do it because it's out of concern for other people. That like
it's out of a fear of it's a fear of what you. No. Come on, most of it is a fear of social shame. Most of it, Derek, is a fear of social shame and being called whatever, called.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't
John
you
is right.
If not for you, for my poor child, you know.
Yeah, but because the videos that are coming out from stores of staff members going up to customers and saying you have to wear the mask, now you have to get out, and it's very aggressive. Do you know what I mean? There's no offer to here. Look, would you mind wearing a mask? Here's one. You know, they're actually kind of. It's almost like they're taking the piss out of them. Some of those videos were totally unnecessary.
That's the thing.
I think John is on. John is right. I can see where he's right. I've just taken the view, if I'm asked, because it's somebody's place of work, and if it makes them feel easier, that's no problem.
That's something I don't know if you listened to the Conan O'Brien podcast. He talked about this, John, a couple of weeks ago. Conan, his podcast is excellent, by the way, but that aside, he is pro-mask, I have to tell you. But he did talk about this phenomenon that's happening in the US. You're probably seeing a lot of it, Derek. It's like this mask shaming, where people are going around with cameras, almost seeking out people not wearing masks just to shame them on camera. In fact,
slut shaming.
Yeah, and that's, I think, nobody
is pro-mask. Nobody is pro-mask. Nobody wants to be wearing the mask. Absolutely not. Right? I can't wait till the day where I can go to the shop with a clear conscience and that I'm not putting other people at risk.
What if they plan not to have that day for you, Derek? What if they plan to have this mask thing forever?
Who's they?
The people who've decided that we should wear masks.
People have decided. This wasn't decided by machines there. Human beings made these decisions, and we can't get the minutes of the meetings to where they made these decisions. We don't know who was in the room.
No, people are giving advice. I mean, that nasty word science. There's a great cartoon I've seen on Twitter that I think explains it well for me. It's like a guy who's like pissing on somebody else, right? And it's like if the other guy wears the trousers, he's protected somewhat from the wee. But if the guy who's doing the weeing is wearing the trousers, then he's more protected. And that sort of makes sense to me, that like a lot of people don't know they have the virus. They're asymptomatic. So I could have the virus now. And if I go into a supermarket and I cough or I splutter, right, and that spreads it to somebody else.
Hang on, Derek, can I stop you there? Derek, can I stop you there? Derek, 1 second. You have it, right? And you don't know it. And you go into a shop and you give it to somebody else.
Yes.
And guess what? They don't know it either.
I've spread the virus.
You spread it to somebody who doesn't know it either, who's like you, completely clueless. This stuff doesn't affect either of you. So let's all wear masks because it might.
Unfortunately, it does, because in the last 2 weeks here, we've had, in this county where we live, Santa Clara, there's been 2,500 more cases.
Cases? Okay, how many deaths, Derek?
I think we've had, I'll get the figures now. Just give you one
second. Okay, Derek, can I just ask you, though, of those deaths, how many were directly, solely as a result of COVID?
Look, John, if I could save one person, it's worth me wearing a mask. Like, do you know what I mean? If I could keep one person alive by wearing a mask, then it's worth it for me.
Of course, Derek.
Right?
Of course,
and look,
of course, Derek.
Of
course. I wouldn't. I really do appreciate that. All I'm saying is, I think that your decency has been manipulated, and that's why the Irish have done it, because we are really, really good people at heart, and we're just trying to do right, but we're being manipulated, I think.
I do accept your point, like about freedom, and I don't like people being cheap. I don't like people just like following something because like they're afraid of a negative comment or something like that. I do like people who are willing to stand up and call things out for what they are. But just on this particular argument, I'm willing to make a sacrifice at least for the next few weeks or months, you know, and see how it plays out. You know, maybe speak to me at Christmas, and I might have a completely different view. I might be of the opinion I'm done with this, right? But for now.
But Derek, can I say something? It may be too late by then, because everybody's so used to it. It's part of our regime. It's part of our life. It's part of who we are. And then you really are become like sort of an outsider, an outlier or whatever, if you don't go for it. So I mean, it's around now that we have to kind of snip it in the bud, really, and just say, look, this is absurd. I mean, it is absurd, and it's also not Irish. You know, we're not really. It's not. We're not really this kind of people. You know.
Yeah,
John,
I think when the schools go back, guys.
Do you still shake hands, John? Would you shake hands with somebody that when you meet them now?
Of course I would, if they would clasp my hand too. Yes, of course.
I love a handshake. Anybody who knows me knows I'm the biggest hugger in the world. I love nothing better than a hug, you know, and like grasping people and give them a big squeeze. I love a good handshake.
Well, I was at a do. I was at a do on Tuesday evening.
Sorry. No, Derek was just going to say, you're not going to hug again till.
Look, I haven't done it since this shelter in place has happened. Obviously, my family, because we're living in the same house, and thankfully none of us are sick. But like that's my thing. I'm an affectionate person, and I love to hug people. I love nothing better than like when I meet you in person and give a good solid handshake. But I don't feel right doing those things now.
Okay.
Just right. Out of respect for, it's what I want to do, but it's out of respect for other people. Okay. You know.
Yeah. And I won't. Look, I mean, you know, I think we've said our piece. I totally appreciate your position, Derek. You know.
Likewise.
I just do want to just draw attention that, John, you do have a voice of support in the chat pit. But the surname is drawing me concern that there might be some favoritism there, because it's a Trina Ryan is saying that she's.
Oh yes, conflict of interest there.
So, I don't know if we can credit that one to you, John Ryan. That Trina Ryan is giving you a shout out, but however,
I just there's an awful lot to be said. What John's saying, and for Derek's, right? I'll only wear a mask when I'm asked to wear one. You know, I won't do it by choice. You know, I've had the virus can fucking eat me alive now at this stage. I've given up. I don't give a shite. Going into I put it, I wear, if somebody wants me to wear one, I will, and I will when I go in and out of place, hand sanitize, and I do all that, right? Because you go into some place and you don't sanitize, you pick something up and you might have left some trace of something. Okay, so I go along with all that because you know, we're all part of a wider community. But I was at an event on Tuesday night. It was quite a big event, and the new Lord Mayor was there with her husband, the new Lady Mayoress, and we were getting photographs taken, and we were all close up, but there was nobody shaking hands. There was a general bit of this going on and a rub, but there was no shaking hands. But we were in quite close quarters, so and. We are adjusting to getting back to going to organising and doing things outside. because I'm now in the we've a meeting called with the credit unions now to agree to we all go back to meeting rooms instead of virtual. So it's coming round. It's coming. The masters thing just seems to I actually don't know how it started. This whole pressure on wearing masks.
Well,
was it just because the buses are with the idea of the schools going back?
It's different from country to country. We probably could do a lot more on it, but I'm just conscious of the time. And John,
there was no talk of masks. Sorry, Neil, but John and Derek, there was no talk of whether masks should be worn or not back in March when it was running riot.
There was, and we were told masks aren't necessary.
You probably wore a mask as a joke, Vanessa, a few months ago.
Did you? Oh,
yeah. That was a portent of your foreshadowing.
So it was Vanessa's fault that we're all wearing masks.
They're copying me. I'm an influencer, John. What can I say?
Does the overwhelming visual effect not chill you to the bone, though? I mean, it's like
it's very strange. It is very strange, John. But I suppose we got used to strange over the last couple of months.
I should have taken a photograph. Actually, maybe when I pass it next week, I'll do this for the fun of it, and I'll share it with the site. But just some of the banks have restricted opening hours here, just because that's the way the banks operate. And there was a line of people outside the bank beside my gym, and so you basically had a queue of people waiting to get into the bank, all wearing masks. Now, could you imagine even 1 year ago, a line of people in masks queuing outside a bank, and what kind of response?
Listen, every single time, I often get out of my car and I'm halfway to the shop, and I go, oh, no mask, I have to turn back. And I always feel, every single time, I feel like a robber. I feel like something from the IRA in the 1920s where I was going to go on a raid, so it is weird. It's totally weird. But, I suppose I've said my piece on it.
Yeah.
John, because it's past our bedtime. Is there any papers there to share with us?
Yeah, the papers are here.
Great.
If you log on to
go into the website.
Or will I send you the link, Neil?
No, I'll find it here. I'll do the I'll share and thing.
And the lead in the Examiner is the stimulus package.
Just bear me a second now. I'll get it up on the telly.
John, we were talking a lot about the EU earlier. It was right up your street. I'm just thinking poor Micheál Martin got off very well. They didn't have a lash off him.
Oh, right. Yeah. Women less likely to recognise drink problem. Connolly named Lascan Corla after shock vote. She's the first, Catherine Connolly, independent TD, is the first. You probably said that already tonight, have you, Vanessa?
No.
Oh, right. She's the first female Can Corla in the Doyle's history, and she won in a surprise victory because Fergus O'Dowd had been the agreed candidate. The government had agreed to vote for Fergus O'Dowd, who's an old school Fine Gael guy, and at least according to reports, at least 14, 15 government TDs voted against the agreed candidate. So 12. Oh, was it 12? Okay.
Yeah, and I'm laughing. That's the exact number of the Green Party, but I'm not pointing fingers. Do you know, it's more of an indication of Jack Chambers not managing the whip properly, I think. That's the second U-turn Jack Chambers has had to have in the last 24 hours, by the way.
Yeah, it's a funny old time, isn't it? If you just go down, Neil, or not?
Congratulations to dear.
Can we go back up for 1 second? Just
sure.
Back up to the Examiner. We did spend a bit of time on this earlier on, but the 7 billion package aims to protect jobs is the sort of thing that we've been talking about in terms of how Irish media covers anything related to the EU. I mean, there's nobody against protecting jobs, right? And that's a lovely positive headline from a deal that is going to cost Ireland money. Like we're going to be a net contributor, which Okay, there's a reason for that, and I understand that a strong European economy will benefit Ireland, because we're a small open economy. But it's the tone of the coverage from the Irish media, and the lack of critical debate that really is an issue.
Well, Derek, I mean, I think since around end of Kenny's tenure, the press really changed here, and it just became, certainly under Varadkar, like this lockstep. They are in total lockstep, press. You won't see much criticism of that deal last week. And it's like, if you kind of say it, you're again not putting on the green jersey, and this is a great thing. And honestly, and it's Fine Gael is part of this as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So they can't blame each other anymore, and they're reeking a whirlwind. Clearly, there's 24 million going to a thing called COVID Life Sciences. Like, this is to research COVID for the next few years. 24 million on top of the 18 million that went to Gavi, which is the vaccination Bill Gates thing.
Yeah.
They're just 18 million, 24 million. It's just like millions, and 800 million on PPE, Neil, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Presumably, which is why we're being forced to wear masks, because they bought so many masks. Seriously, there's a guy who made 200 million. A guy in Cork, an old property developer, made 200 million. He represents a Chinese firm that sell masks. He went bust in 2011, owing 33 million, and now he's selling masks to the government for 200 million. It's fantastic, isn't it? I mean,
well, someone's happy then.
A friend of mine is making cotton masks. I must ask her how many million she's in.
Yeah, well, I think.
But we won't be seeing a shilling of that 7 billion anyway. So I look at all these, and I know I never see it spent. I don't know where it goes.
Go on the Broadsheet website tomorrow. You will have John Ryan autographed face masks for sale, only $49.99 plus P&P.
Sorry,
Derek, do you want to mention something on this?
No, I'm done. I just want to make the point about the lack of debate around European issues in Ireland, and the sort of totally positive press coverage that the EU receives. So we spoke about that length earlier on. So I just wanted to. This is a perfect example of what we were talking about.
Well,
but John's your man for that debate, aren't you, John?
When Amber Reynolds came back, and the press all said he'd got 8 billion from the EU. Like, it wasn't 8 billion. I mean, there was a few billion off. It was just sort of like they'd made out like bandits. They'd gone in and tricked their way to 8 billion. And anyway, sorry.
P. Flynn was the master negotiator for that one. Pádraig Flynn. He was supposed to. He got all the kudos for the 8 billion. That we were supposed to have got. But see, it's like everything. Once that figure gets out there, like we're still talking about it. What it is, 20 or 30 years later, we still have, like, once the message gets out early that this deal has been done, to do the very same thing with negotiations with the social partners. So what to do is they negotiate with the unions, and they announce a deal has been done before the members of the unions ever get a chance to have a vote on it. It's not a deal, it's a proposal. But what happens in the press is it's announced as a deal, and then it's like the union is against the deal. And just the language is like, well, how can you've already agreed the deal. The deal only happens when it's agreed. It's a proposal until you agree to it. But they announce a deal. And it's the same type of shite, I suppose.
Sorry. Yeah, but you know what, John? You and I spoke about this before. This government, the last government, is literally mirroring is actually a mirror of the current government. It's all announcements. It's announcements, press releases.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no follow-up. You know what I mean? You look at the National Children's Hospital. There's a report for this. We're announcing this. There's another announcement another week. But nobody's actually produced what's gone wrong there. It's just all announcements.
I think the big one, that's the big test, is education, because we're seeing that with education as well. And perhaps we can do a back to school special on that as we see details of what education is. But the clock's ticking. 4 or 5 weeks till schools go back, and nothing's on the table.
Yeah. Well, do you think they should go back? Leo Varadkar said they should go back because everybody else, all the other countries have gone back.
Yeah, they should. I think they should go back.
But based on that, that doesn't sound very scientific. It sounds like
there maybe we can save it for another show. But there are reports that have been done on children, the virus, and schools. But maybe we can talk about that on another show. But
well, we talked about it a while back in this show. We
can I mention the story here? Sorry, Derek.
Don't get me started, because it should go back when it's safe to go back, and not before. And
I think that definition of safe is the challenge, though.
Well, I saw there's a lady on News Talk. What's her name? She's the lunchtime show on News Talk.
Kira Kelly.
There you go.
Oh my God. She had a rant the other day. I just saw it on Twitter, and about the whole thing, and disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. Look at.
She was disgraceful, or her? Don't be saying a bad word about Kira Kelly now.
her comments were disgraceful.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
We're being scolded by every doctor,
what's that, John?
We're being scolded by every doctor, Telly doctor every day.
I know. Yeah. Listen, but we spoke about the school situation here a while back in April, May even. I mentioned about the schools should go back in August because. Okay.
I mentioned Israel, right? The schools opened up in Israel, right? And look what has happened. Look how quickly the virus, like in one school, 130 kids contracted the virus.
Okay. Now, Neil, can I? Derek.
Yeah.
Derek.
The school is part of the community. So each one of those 130 kids who in this one school went home to a family, right? The teachers in the school, right? Who the teachers aren't robots; they're people too, and
Derek,
they can have.
Derek, can I just finish off the papers? Mind if I finish off the papers, Derek?
Sorry, sure, yeah.
Terribly, because I just want to. Sorry, and I appreciate about this about schools and stuff.
You're saying there's a good story somewhere, John? Is it?
Oh no, it was just a story on the cover of the Examiner. Sorry, Derek, I didn't mean to.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
I'm just cognizant of time, and Neil is looking kind of hassled. So
yeah. And John, I could rant all day, and I want to start talking about things like that. I start ranting. So apologies.
Well, meet your brother. Don't get me started. the Nazi camp guard convicted. They're still getting them. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I was going to suggest that. Some of our commenters should read that to discover, what actually a Nazi is, rather than people who tweet things that they don't like.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's interesting that they're still getting Nazis, actual Nazis, rather than.
We got suspend.
The fact they're even still alive, I
think he's 89. He's a guard.
Yeah. Martin what's he doing? Unveils unprecedented package. I would just
there you go. There's that smiley picture. I told you.
He's just dreadful. I'm almost mortified for him.
This guy.
Michael Martin, yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the guy in the addiction ad.
Oh, stop! No, I said Michael Martin. What made you John?
Those God, lay off. He's going through a hard time. Neil, could you just go down a little bit? I thought this was. I'm grateful. Then raging minutes later. I thought that was quite ironic, actually. No.
Where's I'm grateful.
No.
Oh yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
And this is Boris in his antique dealer's coat with 2 lobsters in Scotland.
Antique dealers.
And
oh my goodness. Sainsbury's and who's that? What's Lloyd Webber? Is he lost a few bob, is he?
Yeah, he's opening a musical with the world's tiniest violin. It's about him losing business to the Chinese in the West End.
Oh God, love.
Lord. Sainsbury's and Asda refused to enforce mask rules, which is a victory for common sense, I thought.
And John immediately purchased shares in both groups.
Is there Sainsbury's and Asda in Spain?
And you'd be happy to hear this, Neil. Flu vaccinations for 30 million. 30 million jabs in the UK this winter.
Well, now I saw a soundbite tonight. I haven't looked at it properly, so I don't know if I should mention it until I've checked it. But someone sent me a link to a thing that because of our what's the word? Our strictness with masks and hygiene, that it could actually reduce the effect the flu normally has on the population. So it could actually be a positive for limiting the impact of the flu this year. But I haven't looked at the source and read the article in detail. It was just sent just before we went live.
It's not all bad then.
It's not all bad. So, who'd have thought? Who'd have thunk it?
The thing about the Chinese takeover of the West End, that's something that has come up in conversation here a few times, that the Chinese are buying up a lot of high-end properties, both, say, in Seattle, in Portland, in San Francisco. There seems to be a concerted effort by Chinese people in general just to buy up a lot of high-end properties.
Mm-hmm.
That's been going on for over 20 years though, and it's only the last 3 or 4 years people have realized it. Russians as well have been buying up a lot of property and assets. Yeah.
Neil, if you just go down to the thing again.
Flu jabs, more flu jabs.
More jabs. Junk food adversely banned after 9 p.m. If you just,
what? For God's sake.
You just go down.
Sorry, I'm having a moan. They're banning junk food. Like, let adults be adults.
30 million to get flu jabs. Yeah, if you just go down now. Masking for trouble. Broadsheet worthy, I think.
Did you sell coronavirus?
I won't mask you again.
There's Paul.
Public still reluctant to wear masks, and then UK lagging behind other countries on social acceptance. They're not behaving themselves.
Well, the UK doesn't behave themselves on a lot of issues. Brexit for one. So
what's wrong with them? Why can't they just be like all of the rest of us? I mean, it's crazy.
I know, John.
When you say all the rest of us, are you talking about all the John Ryan, all the rest of us, or all the Derek? All the rest of us.
Well, this is The Economist. Okay, so this is they describe it as free money, as if fiat currency hasn't been like. Anyway, so this is about the 7 billion and what else? But Neil and Derek just on the and Vanessa on the 7 billion. Like, we were like Slovakia is now coming back. They're coming back like they can't believe it. They've got billions to spend, and so what comes around goes around really in Europe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll never be in that position again where we're kind of a net, kind of.
How do you see, John? We did this just before you arrived with papers, but I think a large part of the problem is that we actually don't send the good MEPs out there. When I say good, I mean people that'll really light it up and people that are genuine leaders out there. I mean, if you look at, like, say, in the last one, former Rosa Tralee, who had no political, we don't even know what her political principles are. Do you know?
It's a real talking shop. I mean, it is the most boring parliament in the world, frankly. And you'll say what you will about Farage. I mean, he was the most entertaining one there. I mean, it's like, that's the future, Thank God for Mick Wallace and people like that, because it's just technocrats, it's technocracy. This is like NPCs, just, a permission to speak. I'd like to, address on the point of, sorry.
But they're always like that. You have to be allocated speaking time, and if you go to any AGM, like with the unions, like say the teachers or the guards or anything, you're only allocated such amount of speaking time, and there's like standing orders.
Well, it just seems very kind of robotic in Brussels.
Yeah, you won't have a Healy Ray given out across the house, and there'll be no shouting like that, or. Yeah. But I think that the Irish contingent out there, they don't seem that there's no real leader there, and it's not like. Do you know? There's no one to really light it up. I think.
Like P. Flynn, as Eric was mentioning.
Well, I suppose you could look at Phil Hogan is kind of walking in his shoes. They politically, I'd say they're very close. I just like, okay, Claire Daly and Mick Wallace are out there. I mean, I think they would have been far better representatives in the Dáil than they are out there.
Well, of course.
But look at
of course, and Luke Flanagan, of course they would. I mean, it's completely irrelevant what they're doing. I mean, it can only be personal ambition, which is a pity. Anyway,
listen, it happens once it happens in the end. People they get a taste for it, and
well, they're sorely missed. I mean, Catherine Connolly will be sorely missed now. I mean, for the next.
No, but she'd still be TD. It's only when she's in her last Count Corla job. She moves in and out.
No, she can't debate. She can't engage in parliamentary activities. I mean,
I thought
she's like the umpire.
Oh, okay. No, I know that. I thought it was just a step in and out every so often, like for when Sean O'Farrell isn't there. I didn't realise it was permanent. I thought the way Sean O'Farrell is a permanent Count Corla. Because Catherine, does she get her seat back again? Or does she have to compete for her seat?
No, she doesn't.
It's just the Count Corlas. I think it's just the Count Corla is automatically elected.
What's the story with Sean O'Farrell's visor, Neil? He wears a visor, and Sean O'Farrell, the Count Corla, wears a visor, plastic visor.
Oh, that's the latest craze amongst all the Count Corlas.
Is that safe?
Well, actually, the jury's out for me on visors, because I see a lot of people wearing visors, but they don't really cover their mouth with the visor. So I don't know. I know in Spain, visors aren't considered a face covering.
Can you imagine sneezing inside it and all the stuff on the inside? It's not running down the inside.
I think that some air might get in through the sides of the visor. Do you think?
Well, the fact that the visor isn't attached to your chin and that it can be worn at an angle that your face, nose, and mouth is uncovered would suggest that it's probably not fit for purpose.
Would a visor and a mask? Would a mask, visor, kind of...
I don't know.
Do you know what, lads? Just don't go out. Stay at home. That's what you do. Everybody, stay at home. Don't bother with this. Don't get into the confusion.
Maybe Vanessa can sport one next week, because she's the commentator on the comfort level of these things. So maybe Vanessa, you could trial one for the week.
Get one out there. I've loads of them around here.
Well, there was a comedian on Twitter last night who said, "Stay the f home," and there was no punchline. That was it.
Well, there's a lot of that on the US. That's been a bit of a social media tag.
We're Irish people. I mean, I'll bump in, or you bump into that comedian now tomorrow. I mean, why is he telling people to F the home, and why isn't he telling jokes?
Look, maybe he's just not funny.
Comedians can make social statements as well, John. Come on now. We can make social statements. We're not all just
so you're a comedian now, are you?
No, I'm not. I was impersonating.
I know, but
I have to say that if I had been living in Liverpool this week, there's a very strong chance I would have been outside Anfield with my fireworks and my flares, celebrating getting the trophy to Premier League.
With your mask.
I probably would have worn a mask, but I think the pull of being down there would have been too much for me to stay away.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a dispensation on that protest. Nobody will get infected on that one, I think.
Yeah.
It's a bit like
it's a bit like
it's on par with ministerial visits to Brussels as well that don't need to restrict their movements on their return. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Certain public events can be covered, but you know,
there's a written agreement with the coronavirus not to interfere in such matters. That and your €9 meals.
They know the virus wouldn't touch you. That's what it is. They know the virus wouldn't touch you.
You wouldn't catch Rona.
The Bill Gates School of 5G Masts University has come out and said that if you order a €9 meal while visiting Anfield, you don't need to wear a mask.
Well, will I finish off this?
We'll finish it off. I want to go to bed. Come on now.
I know, but you were hurrying us up about 10 minutes ago. You won't finish this now.
There we go. Financial Times. Who reads that?
If you go under, you'll see the Paul.
Oh, there we go. This is there's the broadsheet.
Look,
paper.
No mask. There's no mask in the Daily Star there. Look, Paul has no mask, and your one there is no mask. Maybe she's wearing the mask in the wrong part of the body there.
This is a stock shot, I think, of Paul. He
goes badly photoshopped.
I'm receiving messages saying there are scammers pretending to me contacting you. Look for the blue tick highlighted. Also, look at the follower number. I don't have a private account. Please be careful. Kiss. So be careful, Vanessa. You know, don't follow the fake Paul.
I don't follow. I only follow them when Bake Off is showing.
Who is that kiss for?
Broadcasting.
Who is that kiss for?
I was blowing a kiss at
me and all the Bake Off people.
I thought it was only women that put kisses at the end of tweets and messages. I've rarely seen a guy doing that.
Come on, the guy makes cakes for a living.
I tell you, he is. It's bread, actually. No, it's bread.
He makes sourdough.
Bread is his thing.
Sourdough.
Yeah, of course he does. He's a baker, and he did the bread, and
he left the wife when he got successful.
And did he get that tan?
Twice.
Did he get that tan from being in front of the oven the whole time? Is that why he's glowing?
She stood by him while he was making bread for nobody cared about his bread. She stood by him. As soon as he got onto Bake Off, she was old dough. She was self-raising. She was off. It's finished.
John is actually a far bigger Bake Off fan than he lets on.
That's what I thought the Great British Bake Off. I thought that was exposing him for the bread.
See, John, you can never get into comedy, John, because you'll only start making social statements, and then we'll be re-showing you this episode and say, do you remember that time you gave out about that comedian, John?
Well, what's just my final thing, because I know you have to go. Why are these Irish celebrities and comedians and actors and stuff like that? I know a lot of them are being paid, but why are they accepting money to scold people online? I mean, to finger wag. I mean, do they want that reputation for being that kind of people? I mean, are they forced to do that? What is it, Neil?
I don't know about the payment thing. I know that there's a lot of pressure put on people to have to respond to things because they have to be seen to respond to things. And they're held to higher standards than the rest of us and all that malarkey. If anyone wants to pay me to tweet, wear a mask, Improv Neil at Twitter. If you have a particular mask you want to exclude, you pay to do that. If the Green Party want me to talk about people cycling from Newbridge to Dublin City Centre, happy to do that. Improv Neil.
Well, they've taken on PR companies to employ influencers to give out to their followers. But I think that's going to backfire. I really do.
Oh, but I
agree.
Yeah, the whole social media thing, I think, has it kind of something I said earlier about politics and getting elected, and the Saoirse McHugh saying she didn't want to continue on with didn't believe in electoral politics, and it strikes me that she thought a lot of it about getting elected was likes on social media, and it's almost like now everyone kind of seeks to get their assurance from a Twitter account or Facebook or something.
And it's a big echo chamber. Like people just agree with each other. I saw on Twitter today a hashtag that bugged me. Said cancel the Olympics, and I said I'm done with that. That's like, if they're attacking the Olympics now,
no, don't worry, Derek. The Olympics are in negotiation with coronavirus as we speak to seek an exemption.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't mention, and I just very briefly, Eamon Ryan fell asleep in the convention centre during a Dáil debate.
We talked about last week, Derek.
Did we talk
Did you
about
fall
last
asleep?
We did talk about
that last
week.
Did you fall asleep? See, Derek must have fallen asleep.
It's all like California raisins.
I know.
I told you it's been a very quick week for me, so.
Right.
Well, there is no.
Derek, the mask actually affects them.
It's affecting the oxygen to the brain. I know, right? Yeah.
Well,
so
I've heard.
Very, very quickly, your predictions for the week. Derek, seeing as your memory skills are lacking, maybe we'll ask you first.
Actually, before I do, can you repeat the five words I gave you at the start of the program?
Man, woman, camera, can. Donald Trump. Car, child, umbrella.
I'm worried for you. I'm concerned about you.
Okay.
Vanessa, can you give it a go?
Yeah. Person, woman, man, camera, TV, telly, TV.
Well done. What do
I win?
I think the man, woman, you got mixed up, but not bad. So you're not quite presidential material, but well done. Predictions, I say it every week. It's going to be probably more the same. More the same. Like the Greens.
Eamon Ryan will still have fallen asleep.
It'll be Greens will say something ridiculous again. There'll be some more conspiracy in Fianna Fáil. Trump will contradict himself and say something outrageous, and people will ignore it. It's strange times, interesting times, but it's going to continue for a while yet.
John?
Predictions for the next week?
Yeah.
I think I had a prediction for, a growing anti-mask sentiment among Irish people who have suddenly kind of like found their independent spirit. And I think, that's it. That's
Vanessa?
I think we're going to have more Fianna Fáil news, whether it's Jack Chambers screwing up again or another U-turn. They're all at it. There's going to be more Fianna Fáil. I don't want to say failure, but there's going to be more silly stuff making the news, I think, with Fianna Fáil. I'm going to leave it at that, I think, this week. I think Trump might have a good week. I think he's rebounding.
Just as on the tail end of the Barry Callan thing, Thomas Byrne, will that be avenged, Vanessa?
I was kind of thinking about this. I think Brian Cowan probably I think the fact that he got tick with the guards is what really done him in. I remember saying to you, I think it's the story with the Greyhound that'll finally do him in. I actually think the fact that he got tick with the guards.
Just beyond Barry, Vanessa, just beyond Barry, like how does Thomas Byrne sit in cabinet with presumably some friends of Barry Cowan around?
Do you know what? The party, to a large extent, has always had a few dog-eat-dog factions, and at the moment Fianna Fáil are in a fight for their lives anyway. Fine Gael are skitting laughing, and the Greens are getting on with it.
Okay.
I don't. Did people falling out with Thomas Byrne? I'd say there isn't a day goes by where one of them hasn't fallen out with each other in Fianna Fáil.
Okay.
There's
Well,
no cohesion.
we're other major kind of thing. Anyway, Neil.
No, I wouldn't. They didn't come to fisticuffs, if that's what you're saying, John.
John, I think you're right, John. That I think Thomas Byrne was badly damaged by the whole thing. I think he's been as badly damaged as Cowan has. He didn't come across well at all in the episode.
And Micheál Martin's replacement would be probably a more Cowan friendly guy, and Thomas Byrne can kiss goodbye.
I think Thomas Byrne is too far down the pecking order for it to upset any serious party people, to be honest. I don't believe he was the source. I just think he is acting the bollocks with his own constituency mates. And, all TDs have a gang around them, So the Cowans are no different.
Well, I don't think that guy was lying, Vanessa.
What?
I don't think that party activist was lying about it, about telling him, about being told.
I didn't say he was lying. I'm saying they're just used to having their own little gangs and telling tales and stuff. I don't think Thomas Byrne's position in the party is any different today than it was 6 weeks ago.
All right.
Don't you? I think he's damaged. I don't think he's. I think. Yeah. I think his career is only gone one way now, and it's not up.
Well, he's junior minister, so he's done all right.
Yeah, but it really does show what a shit he is, isn't it? I mean, a real shit. I mean, the guy has just got the job. Clearly, this is going to probably lose him the job. And he's sort of... But
he probably struggled to get re-elected. That's, I think, it'll be his biggest... Not within Fianna Fáil is to get re-elected in that constituency.
Well, he's not enough.
That'd be his... Thomas Byrne is at Meath. He's in a tough spot there.
Well, exactly. I mean, but he's not an Offaly. I mean, he's not. He's not that bad.
No, Cowan is a TD for life.
Yeah, but I think this would make Barry the Cowan name stronger. In fact, in the long term, in the long run, and there will be a feeling of injustice and that he's being treated badly. And there is a huge feeling within the party that Brian Cowan was treated very badly.
Yeah, there is. There's a huge section. And Micheál Martin was never the most popular person in Fianna Fáil anyway. The heave against Micheál Martin is definitely going to happen sooner rather than later. And I'm not sure it will happen because he was mean to Barry Cowan. But Barry Cowan, one way or another, no matter, even if he runs as an independent, he's guaranteed a seat for life over this. Thomas Byrne, on the other hand, I'd say he'll struggle in that constituency, and that's where he will get his payback. Will be at constituency level, not within Fianna Fáil.
I must say one thing. Thanks. I must say one thing before we go. That Micheál Martin seems diminished by the office. He sort of has less charisma even than when he was in opposition. He seems he does. He seems almost like a European style gnomic kind of,
We're seeing him now for what he is, which is a
middle manager,
somebody with no Johnny's charisma. He's always been a ditherer, but he's just done so well for himself, career-wise, But I mean, he got made Taoiseach, the ultimate job for him, I suppose.
Yeah, but even with people like Leo Varadkar, they're heightened by the job alone gives.
Yeah.
He seems.
There's a weight comes with it.
But he's coming down and he looks sort of.
Oh, he's been found out, John.
Sorry.
He's been found out. The way he shushed Eamon Ryan away there a few weeks ago, at Dublin Castle, Eamon Ryan came out, he was talking to Leo and he kind of went, and then Leo then kind of did the shoulder. I mean, I think I thought was disgraceful behaviour. There's just a complete lack of responsibility, is just like acting like grown-ups. They were like teenagers at the back of the shed showing each other dirty photographs or something, and they didn't want anyone else to know. I think you're seeing Micheál Martin now for what he is. He wasn't going to turn in to a man of vision and strategy and decisiveness overnight. He
Well,
never has been. He never has been.
You know, like the Jack Lynch, you know, the grit of Jack Lynch, that kind of quiet grit, Cork, whatever.
Well, Jack was quite brilliant. Was very smart, you know. If you look at, I think I might have posted the gist of this today somewhere on the sheet.
Vanessa,
but if you look
Neil's
at his
gone
career,
mad. Vanessa, hang on. Neil's gone mad. Neil's.
Yeah, I'm putting my foot down now. We're going to go to bed, everyone. It's bad.
oh yeah, that's Neil is a bit of a Micheál Martin fan, so he's
No,
cutting it.
I've talked about this before, and I'm not going to open it now. But
Neil, it's only 3:45 in the afternoon. I don't have to go to bed yet. It's 3:45. You know?
Have you not to be cooking the dinner for the wife and the daughter there, Derek, to be doing?
Okay.
I want one little point for what John was saying. One very quickly point. I get exactly what he's saying. Sometimes somebody gets a job and it empowers them. They grow. They expand to meet the role. You know.
It brings out the best in them.
It brings out something that they didn't know they had. Like they embrace it and they become bigger and like, you know, come at the hour, come at the man. Whereas I agree with him in this sense that it's had the opposite effect on our current Taoiseach.
Yeah. It doesn't look great either physically. Like it looks lost a lot of weight recently or something. Anyway.
Burden on him, yeah.
Neil, Derek, thanks a lot. Vanessa.
Hi, John.
I'll go. Neil, thanks so much.
Cheers, John.
Great to see you.
We'll see you next week. So on that note, I think we'll bid our farewell. I'm going to give my predictions for the week though, because I didn't give mine. We will see more on the travel ban list thing and all that malarkey. There was something else, and I should have wrote it down, but you all kept rambling. I didn't get to remember it. That's all we need. No, there, it's gone. It's a waste. It's gone. So on that note, it's way past my bedtime. Big thanks to our chat pitters, JDF Reality and Trina Ryan. Trina has challenged you, Derek, on the education thing, but maybe we'll save that for another show on the kids and Israel. We'll save that for another show. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Big thanks to our panelist, John Ryan, who's disappeared back to clean his kitchen, and Vanessa Foran, the Queen of Crumlin, currently the Babe of British Bay. Derek O'Donoghue, the Lord of Los Gatos, King of California, the Cowboy of California. Thank you for joining. And myself, Neil Curran. We'll be back next Thursday at the same time. If you have any feedback you'd like to give us, you want to come on the show, maybe you have something to say, maybe you want to send us your face masks. If you want to send them, we'll wear them. Get in touch. And if not, we'll see you tomorrow on the site. Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.